Guys, I don't know where we're going today, but this one might go off the rails quick. We are already in it. We got a fantastic guest today. Him and I went back and forth a little bit prior, and I know I bawled my eyes out already, and
You already had me crying, brother.
I think he cried as well. I think he cried as well. So we'll stay positive and fun. Not that we were negative. It was tears of joy what we were crying about. So men can admit we cry. Men can admit we cry. We can be masculine dudes and still have that with us. So, ah, today's the opening day of Soul on Fire movie. So 10/10, today's the day. So this is when we're recording. I usually don't make a note of when we're recording, but today is special. I just saw it with 150 great people last night, and oh my gosh. So I got a one of the guys that came and saw it. His name's John Bognar, and John says, "This is the most inspirational movie I have ever seen, and I believe you'll think so too. If you haven't heard of John O'Leary, you will. A true story of the tragic experience of a boy in St. Louis that shapes his life in the most positive way one could ever know. Yes, the very same boy, Jack Buck, our beloved Hall of Fame broadcaster, dedicates an entire chapter of it to John in his book. And he says, I know someone who's seen it 7 times already. Yeah, that's me.
I was going to say, I'm looking at him.
He says, I'll go again and I'll go with you if you'll have me. He told his wife, you, me at the theater tomorrow. Oh my goodness. And then he thanks me for inviting them, and he got to bring some friends last night too. So that's the type of kind of emotion and all that. I've been with people multiple times. I know people that have seen it two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8 times, and they say the second time it was even better than the first. So, guys, you might get sick of me talking about Soul on Fire movie, but I still haven't found a way to express what an incredible movie. Laugh, cry, uh, clap, applaud. Like the emotion is just nonstop for this thing. So, enough about the movie for a minute. I'm sure I'm going to talk about it more, but we got a special guest with us today. I am super excited to have Michael Ray on with us today. He's got a nonprofit called Smile Project Louisville. I can say it any
Nailed it.
which way I want since there's so many pronunciations of that city name. So it was not even my pronunciation, but I was just trying to make something up. So, well, welcome to the show, Michael Ray.
Hello, my brother. How are you,
Hello,
my
hello.
friend?
I am wonderful. I am wonderful.
And you know what? Let me drip on one thing on you because it is 10/10, and that has significance for me too. So to be able to share this space on a day that is important to me. So my grandmother, again, I shared before we started, I'm the oldest of seven, so I was my grandmother's first grandchild. So I had a very, very special relationship with them. And my grandmother had an amazing devotion to her Christian life and the Blessed Mother. And she left us 3 years ago. So today was her birthday.
Oh,
So she would have
wow.
been, so she was 99 and a half when the Lord took her. So she would have been 103 today.
Wow.
So October 10th is a very special day to me. So to share this time with you and your audience on which I'm sure my grandmother's up in heaven with the light and shining down on us. So the day, I never shared that with you, but the day that this was happening meant something to me.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. It's funny. I got your message earlier this week and you're like, "Man, I got 40 hours in my week, and of the 40 hours of my workday, I'm excited to spend this hour with you." And I'll be honest, I got your message and I went, "Oh, is that this week?" Like I hadn't looked forward in my calendar, and I've got a couple of people supposed to come onto the podcast, and so I'm like, I wonder what I got Thursday and Friday. Usually I record on Thursdays and Fridays, and I was like, oh, Friday apparently is full.
But you messaged me like 15, 20 minutes before start time. Hopefully you start. I was like, yeah, I've had it in my calendar. We're
Yeah,
good.
yeah. I'm like, obviously you have it. I'm like, I had it. I'm like, but not really all that important for me to know, because I knew I wasn't going to do any prep work for you whatsoever. Like we were just rolling, and I knew there was a crazy, crazy story and I knew that I had to have you on. So, guys, here's how I connected with Michael. Somehow, somebody I know liked something, commented something. Somehow, Facebook says, "Look at Michael." And oftentimes, Facebook can point us in directions that don't shine the light. And I'm like, I don't know. This guy's got a lot of likes, a lot of comments. I don't know, but I'll take a look. I'm like, this post was pretty good. Like this was pretty good. I feel happier. I feel joyful. I feel like this guy's heart is in the right place. I'm like, all right, I'll comment. I'll play along, check out something else. And I'm like, man, this guy's like just sharing the light, and he's bringing happiness to people. And yeah, it's the Smile Project, but I don't know. I got to get to know this guy a little bit better over time. And I'm like, man, this guy's somebody that I want to talk to. I want to get to know him, and I want to share him with the world. There's days where we know there's going to be struggle. It's going to come our way, negative thoughts, and sometimes on the off chance you stumble into something positive and can put a smile on your face, could change your whole day, and could change somebody else's day when they see your smile. And reciprocal, when you see their smile, that lifts you up too. So yeah, so tell us, like, give us something so we can figure out why in the heck you started your nonprofit.
Yeah, so it basically took two things to come together um with a little bit of clarity. And to me, that clarity is the voice of God. So I'm the father of five. I'm fortunate that four are still with me. As I shared with you, the good Lord took one of them home. But as a father of a bunch of kids, and one that is a little bit more unique and special, she has Down syndrome. So that's not crazy unique. I think
So I picked that up early on, and I thought, oh, that's cool. Down syndrome kids oftentimes are smiling and happy and bring joy to others. And I thought, that's really cool. He went Smile Project because of his daughter. This is great. But there's more. Continue.
Yeah, and you know what, it's and I'll get there in a second. It's kind of what you just said too, to the lead up, and you never know what someone is going through, in their day. So again, it's what makes her a little bit more unique with Down syndrome is that she's really nonverbal. And when I say really nonverbal, she's never put two words together. She can say maybe about a half a dozen singular words. Yes, no, happy, coffee, very simple. But has never said two words. So, I a lot of times when I speak to people, it's powerful when you go up to a parent, because what we do, what I learned and what we take for granted is at a very young age, we hear our children say, "I love you, Dad. I love you, Mom." It just naturally happens. But in the 26 years of life of my Maddie, she has never said those words. So the affirmation for me is what you just said. When you talk about the power and simplicity of smiling, it was, having those interactions together and going, "Do you love Dad?" And back then, as it started, she couldn't even say, yeah, but it would light up. It felt like her heart and soul and face would light up, with this giant smile that continued to touch my life. So the affirmation then for me, knowing that my daughter loved me, was she couldn't say it, but I felt it.
Hmm.
So again, going back to what I just said, as far as, you never know what someone's going through in their day. So of course I had that piece and that element in my life. I looked at my daughter probably the first 10, 12 years of her life that she was a disability to me. Not that I didn't love her, but the challenges were so immense at times that, I think it's hard not to, even as a devout Christian, to where we challenge God. Why
Hmm.
me, God? Playing that role. So again, it's that negativity until it really started to take shape and form of like, wow, no, this is something incredibly joyful. look at the gift, look at what God chose me to carry his cross through her. So again, fast forwarding to what talking about people, go things in their day. So I'll never forget it. It was a cold February morning here in Louisville. I was having an awful day at the office. And I think a lot of it for me was at that time knowing that I got back into the mortgage industry. It's been a long time. I got out of the ups and downs of the industry for 20 years, and I swore I would never get back into it. And I was having those conversations with God in which going, this is not working. What am I going to do for the rest of my life? you know,
Hmm.
rewinding back then, I think I was 49 going, dear Heavenly Father, I'm almost 50 years old. I got to find something like it. So for me, I wanted, I was like, all right, what am I going to get for lunch today? And I made a decision. Oh, I love that chili at Wendy's. It's cold out. That chili slaps. I'm gonna roll to Wendy's. So I did. So I rolled to Wendy's to get chili.
Yes.
And again, I'm talking, we're talking now, this is 7.5 years ago. But as I tell this story, and I've told it so many times, I still feel it as if it just happened this morning. And I roll through the drive-through and the energy of just through the speaker, the personality and energy of Chantrell, when I was just saying, hey girl, give me 2 large chilies with extra onion and extra cheese. And I just felt that. So as I pulled up, it was consistent face to face with her. Again, we have these interactions all the time. But for me, in feeling that in that short 30 to 45 seconds that we share with someone just grabbing the bag, I felt compelled to pull over and park. And again, I would tell you that's just God working through you because I had to process what just took place. And I just like right now, I broke down and crying, and I'm like, God, what are you trying to tell me? And I listened to God in that moment, and He told me, He goes, get out of the car and go thank that woman. Because I think she needed to understand again, just in 30 seconds of the impression that she had on another individual. So I did that. So I got out and look, it is crazy taboo. I laugh about this element. It's like, is I say it's taboo because when you're walking back to the drive-through window, something's wrong. That was her first reaction, like, "Oh, sir, what's wrong?" And I said, "No, girl, hey." I said, "I just came to thank you. It's not what's wrong, it's what's right. Thank you for just being you." What do you mean? And I'm like, "No, no, no." I was like, I don't know, but you touched me somehow. And I felt like in this moment, I needed to say thank you. And again, it's the work of God. I don't know why, but I said, hey, can I take a picture with you? And I did, literally holding it up at the drive-through window, standing outside, and I took a picture with Chantrell because I guess in that moment I knew the importance of what it meant in my life. But what it allowed me to do as I left is it allowed me to reflect for several days. Have conversations with God over it, look at the picture, knew the meaning of it. And again, it's what you had said. I was having a terrible morning. And then there was this 180 because of this drive-through worker named Chantrell at Wendy's that just changed the level of positivity and mindset throughout the day. So I kind of dismissed it a little bit. Again, I'll never forget it. About 4 days later, I happened to be, I avidly work out and I was at the YMCA and I ran into a young boy, a teenage boy with Down syndrome. And I felt that same connection. And I said, oh, wait, I want to take my picture with Will. So I did. So then a few days go by. Don't know why. Again, I remember vividly, some of these first ones. I had walked into Vitamin Shop to get vitamins and supplements and such. And Ryan, the manager there, I took another picture. So this started taking place over the course of a couple of months. And then, all of a sudden I had, 25, 30 pictures with random strangers. And you're like, what are you doing? But what I felt was, and then I lost my job at the mortgage company. I felt such joy interacting with complete strangers just in very simple moments. Um, and I look back at that time, Dan, and I would say that I never knew the who, the where, the what, the when, the why. But I always knew I just was in the right place at the right time. And I felt something. And for me, that feeling was it was like, oh hell, here's the Holy Spirit tapping me on the shoulder again, going, go introduce yourself, and I then that kind of evolved too because it was just simple as like, hey, I love smiling with people. What's your name? But then I started spending, maybe 4 or 5 minutes with them and going, just tell me something beautiful about you that because I all of a sudden after several months of doing this, my oldest daughter was like, Dad, you need to share these with the world. I'm like, again, what because it was just for me because I was feeling that
Yeah.
level of joy and
Yeah.
happiness with these strangers. And that's where kind of my social media journey started is that I started sharing hey, I'm here with Will today or Sean Trell, and then sharing something beautiful about them. And then, you know, I would leave a calling card with people. And it was very simple. It said, we jokingly, we talked off air, going, what do we call this?
Yeah. Yeah.
And my oldest daughter's like, well, Dad, you're doing some kind of smile project, And to me, when we were kind of putting a name to it, I was like, well, sometimes a project has, a finality, has an end date. And I'm like, well, I don't know if this is going to last a week, a month, a year, 10 years, kind of thing. So I was like, all right, whatever, Smile Project. Oh, we live in Louisville. You know what? Let's just call it Smile Project Louisville. But then, started and leaving that calling card again, it said Smile Project Louisville. It said, be the reason someone smiles today, my name, my contact information. But I started in some cases, people would send me messages
Huh.
after I had taken a picture. And they would tell me about something that, I mean, a great example is I found myself, one day and I had to kill like 30 minutes. I'm like, it was early afternoon. I was like, oh, hell, I'll go into Starbucks, grab a cup of coffee, just chill in the corner until I met Joe. And Joe had walked in. Um, and when I saw him again, I was like, oh wait, and when I talked about never chasing, it wasn't like, oh man, I haven't taken a picture in a week, I gotta go out today and I gotta find somebody to take a picture with. I just organically let it happen. So Joe walks out of the bathroom, I introduced myself, all that. And Joe was very unique because he was wearing a cowboy hat, he had this flowing beard like Santa. Would probably easily have said he was in his late 60s, early 70s, had one of those Texas ties and cowboy boots. We didn't talk, Dan, for probably more than 2 minutes. I left him my calling card the next day. He had sent me a private message and he said, you don't know this,
Oh.
but yet I was looking for a place to go to the bathroom. And as we were driving down, Brownsboro Road, he said that, there was Kroger's over there. There was, the gas station. He goes, oh, Starbucks, they got clean bathrooms. He said, what you don't know is I just left the cemetery burying my father. And here there was this complete stranger, and all he
Oh.
wanted to do was smile with me. So when you talk about you never know, that's what I started to experience is that because we don't know what anyone is going through in life and the burdens and the things that we carry, the smallest things at time, if you react in anger or overreact in situations, that may not be the individual, but you know what? They may have just found out, or they may have just left the cemetery where they buried their father. They may have just found out their mother had cancer. They may have just lost their job. They may not know how they're going to pay rent. They're going to be evicted. So I started feeling that, and I literally wait for it. I took pictures for the better part of about 18 months. But I kept sharing and it kept resonating with people, and people talked about the beauty of and really at a time to where this country, I don't do politics, but this country started to become so divisive. and it was a breath of fresh air. And I started to look at social media as a beautiful vehicle to be able to share, this joy with the world. So again, after about 18 months or so, I literally, I remember again, like it was this morning, in which I got out of bed. It was just after after 6 a.m. I laugh because, as an aging man, one of the first things you got to, man, I got to get to the toilet. I got to go to the bathroom. And
Yeah.
I literally took about 3 steps and I stopped in my tracks. And again, I would tell you, I heard the voice of God tell me, going, son, you're taking these pictures. What if you did a random act of kindness for a complete stranger?
Huh.
I was like, wait, what? God, what do you want me to do? So you start to prayerfully reflect on that. And I did. I did for about 2 weeks. And I'm going, what would I do? I mean, I'm taking these pictures, but oh dear Lord, what do you do next? So I'm blessed with, we all have very unique personalities in this world. And I would tell you, I'm blessed, and I ask a lot of people what makes them amazing. And one of the things that makes me unique and amazing is that I have the ability to in a lot of situations instantly connect with strangers. I don't know. We call it your energy, whatever you want, however you want to position it. So I'm never worried interacting. And I guess also in sales, when you make when you make enough cold calls, you interact with enough strangers too. So I said, you know what? Let's do this. Let's go into the inner city of Louisville, Kentucky. And I said, probably there's no better place to find someone in need if we're going to a grocery store. And if I go into the inner city, I'm going to find somebody, hopefully, in that case, that not the
Yeah.
single people, a little bit more impoverished
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
need. So we did. So I walked with my son. Um, we had a $50 gift card to Kroger's. And I would sit there and tell you I didn't feel like I'd be conflicted. But as my son and I walked the aisles of looking down and trying to find someone, we became conflicted because we found two women with kids. And they were like, I don't have two $50 gift cards. I only have one. I was like, dear Lord, help me find the right person here. So my son and I prayed over it really quickly. We walked down the aisle, and you can't make it up. We found Candy. I say that because that was her name. Her name was
Wow.
Candy. And what's crazy is that I decided to video the interaction, and I'll get to that later, but to video it. And I did not even know, I didn't know her name. I never met the lady before. And I didn't realize until I shared the video to social media, because she had two small children sitting in the cart, that she had a half eaten Dum Dum sucker stuck to her butt. That was just stuck there. So here Candy has got a sucker stuck to her butt. But again, I do this. It lasts like a minute and a half. You can kind of see and feel the emotion, in the moment from, here's this white guy um, just hugging a black lady in the worst part of town and giving them something with no expectation. But again, it took her 3 weeks. Not that she ever needed to, because again, I'm not looking for gratitude. That's not the point. I trust God that He puts me in the right situations to bless the right people. But Candy sent me a personal private message and said, I'm sorry it's taken this long.
Wow.
What you don't know is we were living house to house. And at times we did not have enough to eat. And it was as if an angel of God came to me that day to help. I can't thank you enough for what you did. So again, I videoed it because as I started sharing those, I wanted people to feel real emotion from human beings. Um, it was never about me. And and now that I've created hundreds and hundreds, I don't even know how many videos and things that I've done. In most cases, you don't see me a whole lot because it's about who I'm with. And
Yeah.
sharing
Yeah. Right. Yep.
sharing them to the world. And that's really kind of again how it started to evolve, because I was deliberately putting myself in situations to find the right people. The second one I ever did, I literally went to the office that offers aid to single mothers. I'm
Yeah.
like, there's probably no better
Right.
place
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
me. So I did that. But so as I did the first 5 or 6 and again started sharing them, again, this is the power and beauty of video and social media. People started locally reaching out, going, how do you find these people? And I was like, well, I just go to the right places. And I truly, I mean this. When I've done these things, there's a couple of very simple prayers that I say right before it goes down that I ask God for the right words, in the moment.
Hmm.
Being with a stranger and being able to touch their heart. Um, but again, I trusted that. But then people started reaching out to me, Dan, and going, hey, what if I told you the story of someone who maybe needs a smile? I'm like, what?
Huh.
Share that with me. And then people started reaching out, going, you know what? Go bless Carly. She's a third grade school teacher who's 28, who's battling stage 3 colon cancer. Go bless this mom who lost. And one of the hardest ones I ever did, I had to go bless a mother who 3 months before lost her 14-year-old daughter, had a seizure
Mm-mm.
and died suddenly.
Mm.
And I'm like, how
Mm.
do I but I looked at things positively and going, you know what? No, she she had um she had something wrong that they didn't figure out until the autopsy. So it's going to bring awareness to her and maybe bring light and love for others. Again, as we said before we started, believing in a prayerful community, not worrying about the 1 or 2 people that may go, oh, why did you have to video that? Or I don't believe in the power of prayer. I was speaking to the masses that did
Yeah. Yeah.
that did believe in that messaging. And, you know, again, I've done so many, I'll never diminish any of them. And the reason being is even though maybe I felt something different in the moment, I'm going to get to a very special story here, is I never know. And I always trust in, I'm really only trying to really help 2 people. I'm trying to bless in the moment the person that I'm with so they can feel the love and that blessing and maybe Christ's love. And then I'm trying to find one person. So you get out of the analytics and the vanity of, oh, well, why did only 1,000 people watch that video and the other video I dropped the other day, which this video is better and 20,000 people watched it. You start thinking, but at the end of the day, I always went back to that simple place of, well, look at what Chantrell did for me in the drive-through. She really changed my life. So I'm just looking for one person. Yeah, I would love to be able to change the life of 10,000 people watching it. But at the end of the day, it really was about 2 people. So again, this is the power of social media. This is the power of community and the power of the relationship with Christ. So I had a gentleman from Corpus Christi, Texas, sent me a private message. And again, he's living down in Corpus Christi, Texas. And um, on a late July morning I think now it's 2020. It may be 2021, but his son actually was living in Louisville, Kentucky. And his son was driving down Interstate 71 and it was pouring down rainy at a rollover accident.
Mm.
And his son was in a coma, was 29 years old. Zeke
Mm.
was in a coma. And when that took place, his son hadn't lived here that long. So um, I won't use his last name, but Tim had never been to Louisville, but now he found himself going, oh, dear Heavenly Father, I got to go, to Louisville. I don't know anybody. But he goes, oh, wait, I've been watching this guy on LinkedIn called Smile Project Louisville.
Wow. And then you just happen to
I,
have that in your
I
name for
actually know
kind of no
somebody.
reason.
And he sent me a private message. We exchanged phone numbers. And then he called me and told me what took place. And he said he was flying in the next day. I said, you know what, brother? I said, I would love to meet you. I would love to go visit and pray over your son. I said, I also, because now I have this growing audience, I had tens of thousands of people following me. And as we know, it's not sometimes about your followers because things can go viral. I said, I believe in the power of prayer. I said, I'm going to bring my daughter, Maddie. I said, I'm going to meet you down on the Ohio River. I said, it's probably not more than 2 miles from the hospital. And we're going to do a video for your son, Zeke. So we go down there. I meet up with Tim. We talk for about 15, 20 minutes. And man, Dan, like 95% of the time, the beautiful lady, my wife upstairs, was the one doing the videoing, and she couldn't go that day.
Oh,
And I was like, man, this is going to be such an impactful moment. I can't be the dude holding my phone.
yeah.
I don't want that because I know I'm going to get emotional, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want that. So as I'm in the waterfront park there, I I was navigating, walking around. I asked a group of teenagers, they wouldn't do it, and I was like, oh dear Heavenly Father, I see this somewhat elderly man. He was probably in his early 70s. I'm like, sure, this guy's going to do it. So I walk up. I said, hey, sir, can I ask for a favor? He goes, I don't do favors. I was like, that's all good. I said, I only wanted about 2 or 3 minutes of your time. He goes, well, what is it? I said, I wanted to do a really quick, video down. It's about 100 yards up from the river. I said, down by the river. And I would love if you hold the camera. He goes, I'm not your guy. I said, okay, okay. So I literally walking away. I said, Tim, I said, I'm just going to hold hold the phone. We'll just do it. We'll just go ahead. So I go back down by the river, and literally as I'm getting ready to get started, I see this guy walking towards us, and he was walking to come back to us.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
he said, you know what? I changed my mind. I'll do it for you. So the video starts. We talk about what happened to Zeke. Um, I wanted Tim to talk about the love he had for his son and why Zeke was amazing to this world. And then I was compelled at that point for my audience, again, speaking to the masses, I said, let's say the Lord's Prayer now, for Zeke.
Yeah.
So we did. So guy hands me the phone, go back to the parking lot, sitting there with Maddie and Tim. Um, Probably 10 minutes later, again, the same dude walks back up, not thinking of anything, and he walks back up to us. And he talks to Tim and he goes, sir, I'm so sorry what happened to your son. He said, I went back and sat on the bench. And he goes, I would sit here and tell you I didn't believe in God, but
Oh,
the voice of God spoke to me to come speak to you. Now, tragically, about 2 months later, they pulled the plug on Zeke, and he passed away at 29. And I often look back at what took place that day, and I'm like, maybe God had us there for that man who didn't have a relationship with Christ.
right. Right.
Again, because we sometimes challenge God in where we are in life and what's happening to us, but He's perfection. We were in the right place. And you have to still trust why God needed Zeke in what took place there. But yet, again, maybe we were there for that man.
Oh. So there's a question I saw yesterday, and then it's a theme of the John O'Leary movie. You have tragedy in your life, and you've had tragedy in your life. Well, we kind of alluded to it earlier. And the question is, what if there's purpose in your pain? So we're feeling this, we're feeling this, we're feeling this. And like, what if you could know that answer as you were going through it? What if you knew that? Like, and of course we can't. Of course we don't. In John's case, John O'Leary's case, he got burned, nearly died when he was 9 years old, accidentally blew himself up in his parents' home with a 5 gallon can of gasoline. And later in life, somebody asked him, "Hey," in front of a little audience, and they said, "Would you not have done that going back?" And he quickly thinks through. He's like, "Of course I wouldn't burn my parents' house down and explode myself. Like, duh." And then fast forward him 10 years or whatever and gets the question again. And he's like, "No, I'd never trade that for the world. Like, that pain led me to my purpose." And now he's got a movie about him. Live Inspired is his logo, just like you, where you're helping people, joy, happiness, helping them move through pain. And that kind of leads me to you. You mentioned 5 kids, 4 of them
Yeah.
still with us. I know that some of these were twin boys, and one of the twins isn't here any longer. I don't know the story. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, it's fascinating too because I had 3 daughters. You know,
Huh.
it's not that I wasn't blessed with 3 amazing girls. I was, but yet, I guess every father to some extent wants a son. So, um, you're sitting there, and as you're getting older and assessing, going, and unfortunately now she's my ex-wife, but um, looking back at that time, it had been like 4 years, and we were getting in our later 30s, and you're sitting there going, well, if we're going to make an attempt, this is maybe it. So we said, okay, we're going to make one more attempt at having, having more children. And again, I'll never forget, where I was. And I had gone to all the ultrasounds, for my first 3. And I guess you just get complacent whenever you've been to
Yeah,
that
yeah.
rodeo so many
Right.
times. And I wasn't, but I was sitting in a client's office. Never forget the guy's name, Tom Sherman. And she had called me, and I knew she was just at the doctor. So I was like, hey, Tom, my wife's calling, hang on a second here. And she immediately goes, are you sitting down? And I said, yes. And she goes, we are going to need a bigger vehicle. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because that ultrasound had revealed that we were having twins. And I was like, oh dear Lord, I gotta process this. I didn't bargain for it from 3 to 5,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So we didn't at first. Um, we decided we didn't on our first 2 children. There's a really other funny story that I'll let go on our third when we found out, but we decided to find out because we were having twins that we were going to find out the sex, and we found out they were boys. So of course I was over the top excited.
Yes, yes.
In that, I started visualizing things in my head, people going, oh, look at the dynamic duo, look at those Ray boys go, you're playing all those things out in your
Yeah.
head. Um, and of course, they were born. So there probably was a sign, even though we had no idea. And I only say that because Sam was about 5.5 pounds, and Charlie was just over 4 pounds. And I say that because even though nothing had taken place, and it's wild to see the background, because where this becomes very real, and when I say seeing the background, is that on September 16th of 2006, I caught all kinds of hell at home because I'm a University of Louisville alumni. We were playing the Miami Hurricanes, and that game happened to be that day. And it was my now ex-wife's birthday. So I caught all kinds of grief going, you're leaving me and you're going to the game on my birthday, you know. But I knew that, and she didn't know we had things planned after the game, that we were going to do for her
Yeah,
birthday and
yeah,
all that.
right,
But I
right,
was I
right.
was trying to lessen the beating that I was taking at home. So so again, it was my ex-wife's birthday. I left. I went to the game, and um somewhere early in the second quarter, I got a phone call. And again, it was sold out, so just like the backdrop that you have there, imagine being in a
Yeah,
crowd
yeah.
of a lot of people. It was
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you got tons of people and everybody's excited and all this, and then you get a phone call like that, and yeah, your whole mood is different than
getting
the
out of a
audience.
stadium of 60,000 people and getting, and literally my car was probably easily over a half mile away. We're running to the car. And kind of where we lived, it was legitimately about a 30-minute drive. So of course you have all those things playing out in your head. Um, and I'm literally doing 100, 110 miles down the
Yep,
interstate to
for
get to the
sure.
hospital, to walk into the hospital, and to have been greeted um, by my wife at the time, Elizabeth, crying because he had already passed away. And and those moments, he was just shy of 3 months old. Um, you don't have any answers at that point, and to be sitting there, um, in that room with her and holding a dead child,
Ooh.
um, for the last time. But they did an autopsy, And the autopsy revealed that he had a condition called multicystic encephalopathy. That basically means, and what they ascertained is that most likely, and the reason why I go back to the weight, sometime late term in utero, the cord probably wrapped around, caused a clot in his brain, and that clot was just a ticking time bomb.
Okay. Okay.
Where literally, medically they said you probably had two outcomes: either he was going to be a vegetable, or he was, going to lose his life, and the Lord chose to take him home. And that created, for me, I look back, and just as you talked about John O'Leary and the gas can, I don't live with any regret, because probably looking back now, understanding things taught me things in life, that have given me such great purpose, as you said. um, but looking back at that time, um, again, I think I said, I worked in the mortgage industry. Well, I was knee deep in the mortgage industry when it was really, really bad. And
Okay. Yeah.
that was the time between '07 and '09. Well, of course, that was coming on the heels where I lost my first job just months after Charlie dying. So,
Mm.
the grieving didn't stop. Um, Probably got to a point, Dan, where, financially we knew we needed to move. But, my position was, you'll have to pry my lifeless hands from this house because my son died in this house.
Mm.
I'm not leaving. So
Yeah.
that created friction, in the marriage. We a lot of times probably grieved
Yeah.
separately.
Yeah.
We didn't support each other. And, I look back and I tell people now, we waited too long to fix what was once good. And that was, truly going to a professional and getting help. And when I say too long, I mean, it was 3 years removed before we really got into counseling and help. And we were two broken people, at that point, that couldn't support each other lovingly, and the marriage was broken.
So what I'm
Oh,
hearing there for the guys who are married, a lot of us, is the little things left unattended to can turn into big things. Uh, in your case, they were already big things, like Down syndrome and child loss. Oh my gosh, those are like two statistical high probability events each individually. I didn't know it about the Down syndrome at all, but I was talking to somebody on the podcast and they came up and they're
yeah.
like, it's, and she happened to be like a marital counselor by trade. And she's like, oh yeah, like I forgot what she said, 60% or 90% or
But no, it's over 90% of
yeah.
those who lose H. When we sat there, one of the first things I'll never forget that the therapist actually said was, you do understand over 90% of marriages that lose a child fail.
Yeah, so that's the child failure one.
So
For
so
for Down
immediately,
syndrome though,
and
or
then when you
special
factor in
needs.
the down a special needs child, he was like, you probably have a 1% chance of, I don't mean to be but
Yeah.
it was the reality that we were faced with,
Yeah, I was
that
talking about the special needs child in
yes, yeah.
general. Like that one's a very
And that's
high
high too.
percentage. I don't
Yes,
want to say that it's
absolutely.
90% because I don't remember, but it was a number that I went, oh my goodness, I didn't know.
Look, unfortunately, half of our marriages in this country fail. And I probably would say in most cases is because we don't, look, communication, lack of faith, and working together to fix things, again, where small things become big things. But you're right. And navigating that, I look back, I'm probably not surprised it didn't work, but it could have worked too. you know?
So you don't know this about me, but we also had child loss. We lost two around that same 12-week mark, and um, remember we knew we were pregnant, and we went to the doctors. Very first ultrasound, heard a heartbeat. No way. This is awesome. This is the best. Doc, can we tell anybody now? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, we're good.
Right, that you have so much joy you want to share with the world.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not sharing it with everybody, but can I tell my parents? And they're like, oh, tell the world. Tell the world you're good. Like, now that we made it this far, we are like, we have confidence. Like, you can, okay. So I tell my parents, and I'm so excited. And then the very next day, my wife says, I don't feel right. Things are, so we went back up there and the nurse says, yeah, we'll get to you. Sit over there and we'll get to you about 11:30. We were there about, I don't know, 9:30. I was at work. I left. I'm like, I'll leave. I'll be right back. Like they'll get us in and out, like probably okay. And when she says, we'll get to you at 11:30, I said, you know exactly what they're doing. They're going to clear this whole building out so that nobody hears us wailing. Just, ugh. Sure enough, they bring us back to the room, pull out the same ultrasound, get the wand out. Nothing. Most beautiful sound in the entire world
It's taken.
was that heartbeat. Very next day, it wasn't there, and I'm looking at that doctor. I'm like, you say something. I don't know what you're supposed to say, but say something. Like, this silence is killing me. I know what's happening. I know my wife knows what's happening. And the doctor finally says, well, there's no heartbeat. She says, well, these things happen. Let's move on. Do you want to get a test? There's not really a reason for a test to figure out what happened. And anyway, that was like the worst advice a medical professional could do. There's something called MTHFR out there, and 10 to 12 weeks, it causes blood clotting. It doesn't matter if the wife has it or the husband has it, the dad or the mom, both can be carriers. And we've seen enough medical professionals, and there's Creighton model or NAPRO technology out there. It's all natural stuff. And they're like, hey, you got MTHFR, 10 to 12 weeks. Like, you're going to have a miscarriage. Like, just is what it is. And there's simple things we can do to overcome that. So thank you, MedPro, who is ready to set us up to have a second miscarriage, which happened. And then thankfully, we're like,
How
we're going to
long
try
after the
something
first
different.
one did you have? Because I know you've gotten
Year and a
several.
half, 2 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then after that, we saw a
Because
different
I
medical
think
professional, and
what
it
two
was
two or three children?
two. Yeah.
Two. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So once we switched over to the NAPRO technology, that doctor, without bragging, humbly says 91% of the time, within 12 months, our parents get pregnant and
Yeah.
keep the baby to full term. And anyway, I challenged him. I'm like, hey, we've heard about these other people and they're beating on their chest and they're screaming from mountaintops. Hey, we got 1% better this year. We're up to 52. And those other guys are 49 and whatever. And we're $15,000. I'm like, you're telling me you're just a doctor copay and some natural stuff and you're 91%, but you said it humbly.
Yeah.
And he goes, go up front. I'll let her know that you want to check the records if you want to verify my number. I said, I'm not challenging you. I just want to know how
Yeah.
you said that humbly. And he says, we've worked on the system for a long time and God has helped us through this
God
and
is
we've come
working
up with
through him
something. And
too. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wanted to use what God gave us. I wanted to do everything all natural. And I didn't believe that we needed all these other things in most cases. And anyway, so that was that. But that was our just heartbreaking moment. And the next day to have to call my parents, and we had planned on having lunch. I'm like, you guys still want to get together? No, as you know. So, but yeah, those moments, like, you don't know. And now we've got our two daughters, both natural and um, joy and happiness. And man, when I think back, I'm
And
like, I
you
sure
will see the
appreciate both
other
of them.
you will see the other two, on the
Yes.
other side. So yeah. 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 There's I mean there's no doubt that um I look at it, I often laughingly say, I already have two that, one's already there. And
Yeah.
then, Maddie is, um, and I didn't start doing this till recently. When I say recently, maybe a year or so ago. And again, like I said, I've been in a lot of these, I've been blessed and grateful to be in a lot of these situations that talk about this. But it came up in conversation, and I had made the comment. I said, I think that my daughter Maddie is the closest thing I've ever seen to Christ in anyone I've ever met in my life. And they said, well, tell me how so. And I said, well, um, if you ask me, there's two things that I really think that God wants for us is to spread love, and then keep his commandments. Stay true to his word. And I've, been able to look at my daughter, again, I do now say the gift of Down syndrome. And I say that because again,
Mm,
she's it's almost again laughingly like a dog that has so much unconditional love for its owner.
yes.
Maddie has unconditional love for humanity. And and what I've seen a lot of times, again, talking about, I don't do politics. I stay out of the
Yeah.
divisive
Yep.
spaces because, again, I'm not here to judge someone else. I'm here to show them love and bless them. So again, I go back to Maddie. If you have nothing but unconditional conditional love and you don't judge, you have no time to hate. So therefore, you're carrying Christ's light and love. And then think about this. I don't think she's ever sinned. I say that with such honesty and conviction, in which, again, so if you don't have,
Yeah.
the
The
intellectual
mental. Yeah.
ability to do that, then, and to me, she doesn't, because again, it's almost like most children, when you're 3, 4, 5 years old, most children don't, they're pure, they're innocent. And that's where my daughter is. So to me, she has a path to eternity, in paradise. So I often say I'm chasing that same
Yeah.
path, but I want to be with them for eternity. So
Yeah. So yeah, that could be a challenging thought for people about the fact of a human to be sinless, and so we're not gonna debate.
and I don't disagree. I don't
Yeah.
disagree.
Yeah.
Again,
No, and I'm
and
not saying to do, but I want to just kind
no,
of
yeah,
clarify that thought pattern. So
yeah.
some people think, and it makes sense to me, if you're gonna sin, it's a choice. So if you don't have the ability to choose and don't have the full understanding and rationale, I'm like, all right, now we're almost back to the can God do anything? Yeah, God can do anything. Okay, well, can he create a rock so heavy you can't lift it? I suppose because he can do anything.
So then is, and I read something, and you're not wrong. I read something the other day, talking about good and evil, and well, does evil really exist, or you know, does darkness really exist? Darkness
Yeah,
exists
the
because
absence
it's
of
the
light.
absence of light.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
then, does evil really exist, or is it only the absence of Christ?
yeah, yeah.
There, because again, I often say, when I talk about Christ speaking to me, my conscience is God telling me, no, that's
Yes. Yeah. So it was fantastic having you on. We'll transition a little bit to kind of storms and seasons of life and how things happen. I've got a buddy named Chris. He's in this group that I'm in. There's a whole bunch of dads in it. And buddy was saying, hey, when I got anxiety and life's on me and I just feel like despair, even though I can't put my finger on it, what do you guys do? Because we all run into that. And so my buddy Chris just post the word super simple, pray. Well, okay, duh. For us Christians, of course. And then as men, we go, how? And I'm like, for the original poster, I'm like, might be helpful if this guy elaborated. So I say, hey man, I'm not challenging you. Like we love each other,
yeah.
but can you elaborate on that? And his comment is, I have no doubt prayer is on your list, brother. Not to dodge the question, but prayer for me is in situations is situational. And that's what I was thinking too. Like, depending on what you got, might be a different kind of prayer or might be different words. So I was like, I think it'd be helpful if this guy could hear an actual prayer or an example of a prayer. So he says, so my prayer is specific to what I'm dealing with. I also prefer to use scripture as a guide for what to pray. Oh, wow. Great idea. Open the book. In the situation the original poster laid out, my first prayer would simply be, this is real similar to one I use, simply be easy prayer, 3 words. Help me, Jesus. Especially if I'm not sure where the anxiety is coming from. Help me, Jesus. Like, what a simple prayer. And as men, we can forget to ask for help from other men. And we can also forget to ask for help from God and Jesus. So he goes,
Absolutely.
here's a bigger prayer. Father, I love you. I thank you for your love and grace and mercy. Please forgive me of my sins. Help me as I am under attack. I don't know why I'm feeling anxious, but I know evil is trying to destroy me. But you, God, are my Savior. This battle belongs to you. You are my rock and my fortress. Protect me from my enemies. Turn my thought to you and remind me of all the blessings you provide and all the promises you fulfill and all I have to be thankful for. Take this worry away from me and replace it with gratitude. This is the day that you have made. Help me rejoice and be glad in it. I ask this in Jesus' holy and wonderful name. Amen.
That is powerful and beautiful and made me think of, my mom had a devotion to, to Saint Michael, and that was one of the reasons why I was named after my father, was to keep that
Yeah.
going. And, um, the spiritual battles and things that we face in life. Um, there was a little bit of an element to Saint Michael there too. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. That spiritual battle, spiritual
yeah,
warfare, and every day we're in a battle. We might not know it, but the enemy does. The enemy does.
absolutely. They're constantly attacking us.
Oh, so it's been fantastic having you on. Have you got any parting words of wisdom or parting something that you'd want to share with Christian dads who are listening? And I know we've got some moms. We had John O'Leary on lately, so the moms love John O'Leary.
I'll have to find that, or you'll have to send it to me, because I would love to
Yeah, I'll shoot that over.
actually see that. But you know, um, just the simplicity of, kind of where we started, in which, for me, we take sometimes smiling for granted. And what I started to understand was, smiling was a nonverbal way to say to someone else that you did not know, I love you.
Mm,
Again, that's what I learned. It's learned behavior from my daughter. So, I would challenge anybody. Um, and as people watch a lot of things, and give away all kinds of money and things to touch people's lives who were going through things, it's it's never about money. So this is what I would leave you with. And again, it goes back to love, and that's what Maya Angelou said, and that is, people will forget what you did, they will forget what you said, but they won't forget how you made them feel. Because it's no different when I've relived certain moments that happened years ago. I feel those. I
mm,
feel those as if they just happened. And I tell people that, yeah, I gave a random stranger $500. Um, they spend it. I may have brought them balloons with my daughter. The balloons die, you throw them away. But what they don't remember, or don't forget, is the feelings and the emotions that they had in the moment, and that is sim- simply love. So I would challenge people to be the reason someone smiles today. That comes with kindness and just the simplicity of smiling to a stranger.
that's fantastic. It made me think of that, like the Maya Angelou quote for sure. It's how you make people feel. When I watched the John O'Leary movie Soul on Fire, you just feel. And it's very challenging to come up with a way to help somebody else understand how you felt. And I've seen it 7 times, and I can tell you I absolutely love being in a crowded theater and feeling other people's emotions, whether it's happy joy tears or whether it's laughing or comedic or whatever's happening. Or at one of these
Right?
things somebody had a super loud, super funny laugh, like every time there was something funny, like you knew it was funny because this person over my right hand shoulder was killing it and I was laughing at the laugh. And
It's
it,
contagious.
yes,
Yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes, it
yeah.
was a blast. Ozzie Smith, the baseball player, happened to be at one of these showings, and he has a small cameo in the movie. And so it was really cool at that one. When Ozzie Smith's cameo came up, everybody started clapping and like standing ovation for Ozzie Smith. And He's got the
The Wizard of
smallest part in
Oz,
the
baby.
world. He
Yeah,
says a
yeah,
few
yeah.
words, but like the love for Ozzy was there, and it was anyway. But this movie's a great one to see at the theater. The emotion, the feels, the being able to share positivity and joy, being able to move through pain, and ultimately finding the purpose down the road, whether it's here on earth or in heaven. But God's good. We just got to trust in Him. It can be hard, and when it's hard, prayer.
He never said it would be easy.
No, as a matter of fact, he
Yeah,
promised
yeah,
it we'd have trouble. It's coming. It's coming. So,
yeah.
build your brotherhood with brothers around. Connect with, local people, connect with people out of state, but build that so when the storms come, you have somebody that you can reach out to. I had a couple storms just yesterday. I reached out to two guys. One guy messaged me. I'm like, "Hey man, we don't know each other well, but I know one thing. Can you call me?" And he just prayed for me real quick.
Right.
And I'm like, man, thanks. I feel much better. And in his prayer happened to be a little gem, a little word of wisdom. I'm like, yep, that's the approach I need to take. He wasn't being prescriptive. He was just being prayerful. I'm
Sure.
like, oh, that was it. That was the answer I needed. And that was what I needed to get through the yesterday and then today as well. So anyway, Michael Ray on Facebook and then Smile Project Louisville. And he does post some pretty cool stuff and he gets an unbelievable reaction from folks. I'll get you the John O'Leary episode. I'll message
Please
that to
do.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Journey of a Christian Dad. John O'Leary's got two episodes. They're both unbelievable. And
Now
then
my
his,
only challenge is, do I watch it before I watch the movie, or do I watch the movie and then watch the podcast?
oh man, yeah, either way, I don't think you can go
Yeah.
wrong. I don't think you can go wrong at all, but yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's been a pleasure. It's been a blessing. I've thoroughly enjoyed getting to hang out with you, get to know you better. So I look forward to staying connected. And you're not too far, King Louis
Maybe one
City
day
to
to hug it
King
out.
Louis City.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, he's in Louisville. I'm
And
in
again,
St.
Dan,
Louis.
thank you. I'm grateful for the
Oh,
time, and I value. Yeah.
do you
Yeah.
want to throw a challenge out for the guys? Almost forgot to ask. Something they can do week to week. So whatever that might be, I got a feeling what it might
Well,
be, but
if
you
they're
throw
not
it out.
doing it, and sometimes in the different podcasts I've been on, I would challenge people to start their day with clarity. And there are several things that I do, and that is prayer. It doesn't mean that you have to sit 30 minutes to an hour in prayer. And again, I'll be very transparent. A lot of times for me, it's maybe 5, 6, 7 minutes. But I start every morning with the simplicity of two specific prayers for the rosary that I have, and then I lean into three things that are literally emailed to me every day. It's the readings. It's the
Yep.
readings of the day. So I literally take about 2 to 3 minutes to read scripture. Um, and then there are a couple of other just simple verses that get sent to me, but that's how I stay grounded. And I tell people that, it's not that I don't have bad days, but to me, they're more bad moments because I don't
Yeah.
allow them to control me like things in my life once did. Because if you do, that's where bad days turn into bad weeks, bad months, bad lives.
Yes. Yes. Well, that is a perfect, perfect, perfect way to close us out. Michael Ray, you're a gem. You are a gift. As you mentioned, you are a gift. John O'Leary's dad, Denny, referred to his Parkinson's as a gift, and you referenced your daughter with Down syndrome as a gift. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I appreciate you blessing my audience and spending your time with me today.
Thank you, brother.
Yes, yes, as Jack Buck would say, uh, I forgot what he would say, but he's got a cool saying. So I'm too
I
emotional to
grew up
think of
with
it.
him as well. So yeah,
Yes, yes, absolutely.
we're
For
synonymous with literally him and like Vin Scully were baseball to me. So yeah,
100%.
Jack Buck and
Yes,
Vin Scully.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, God bless you. God bless you guys for listening. And yeah, tune in the next one and jump on the challenge. Clarify your day and start the day with prayer. See you guys.
Amen.